Hello and welcome to this screencast on sports psychology looking at attributions. So before we start, what we need to be aware of is Viner's model of attribution and the three dimensions that this has. So stability, causality and then control as well, or locus of stability, locus of causality and locus of controllability or control. Once we've looked at this, we need to look at this term learned helplessness and how it's a barrier to sports performance, as well as mastery orientation to optimise sports performance. These are the type of questions you might get asked on attribution within the A-level paper. Give two sporting examples of attributions that would be classed as uncontrollable. That's the control aspect. As well as in relation to Viner's model of attribution, explain the term locus of control. So again, another control. There are several more, however, this is just a brief example. First of all, before we discuss Viner's model of attribution, we obviously need to know what attributions are. So the definition or description, or the way we describe an attribution, is basically the reasons given for success and failure. Now this is huge within sport, it's huge within sports psychology, because these reasons given for success and failure have huge impact on motivation and has a huge say on whether or not someone is motivated to continue to participate in sport and perform well, or potentially even giving up on sport. So attributions, reason given for success and failure. There are four attributions we need to be aware of. I'm going to give you one attribution with examples, the other attribution with examples, and so forth. The first attribution we need to be aware of is under the locus of causality, okay, and this is internal. So one of the attributions, one of the reasons that we give for success and failure in sport will be internal. It comes from within. For example, ability. So this is the actual attribution, and this is an example of the attribution. I won because of my ability. We were the better team. Okay. Or I lost because of internal attribution of ability, i.e. I was not fast enough. Okay. Ability is innate. For example, our speed. I'm fast or I'm slow. Another example for internal as an attribution is effort. Okay, this is a really key one when we do Viner's model of attribution, which will be discussed later on. So effort, I gave it all I had. I won because I gave it everything. Or I lost because I didn't try that hard. Another attribution we need to be aware of is external, okay? And this comes from outside, okay, outside of us. So for example, the task difficulty. I lost because the opposition were playing at top of the league, okay? That is external. I can't control that from within, therefore it's an external attribution. The example, task difficulty. Or, I wish I chose an easier trampoline routine to complete. External, trampoline routine is external to us. Another external attribution, or another example of the attribution of external, is luck, okay? That is external, it comes from outside of us. For example, they had the ref on their side. The ref made a really bad call there. So you may say you won because of luck, or you may say you failed because of luck. They are the first two attributions we are looking at. The second two attributions we're going to be looking at are fall under the locus of stability. Okay, so now we've seen the locus of causality. Now we're looking at the locus of stability. The first one we're going to look at is stable. Okay, so this is another attribution we use. The attribution of stable. Now this can't change, and we actually use the same examples. So our ability is stable, and this cannot change, i.e. I am fast. That's why I won the race. Another example for stable as an attribute is task difficulty. They are top of the league, okay, or the trampoline routine is complicated and difficult. This doesn't change, this can't change, this is a stable attribute. We also have unstable. So unstable attributes can change. For example, our effort can change. Sometimes you try hard, sometimes you do not try as hard. Also, luck is an unstable attribute. One day the ref is on your side, the other day he's not. One day you hit the post 3 times and crossbar once. The next time you play, you score all of your shots. So, luck is unstable. Now, we use these together in this format. So this is actually Viner's model of attribution as a whole, okay? So we've got locus of causality, internal, comes from within, i.e. our ability and our effort. we've got this other attribution, external. For example, supporting example, task difficulty and luck. Then we have the attribute of stable, supporting example, ability or task difficulty, as well as the attribute of unstable, for example, effort and luck. They are our 4 attributions that we use for reasons given for success and failure in sport. As you can see from this table, they can work together. For example, an internal stable attribution is our ability. It's internal, it comes from within, and it doesn't change our ability. Effort is internal and unstable. Our effort comes from within, however, our effort can change from week to week, day to day, depending on different situations. And then also external stable, we've got task difficulty as the example. And then finally, the last attribution we can say is external unstable, our luck. Our luck comes from outside of us, external, and it is unstable. We can change it. One day we're lucky, the next day we're not. So that right there is final model of attribution. Now this is the 2-dimensional attribution model, locus of causality, locus of stability. There is another dimension to this model, which is locus of control. Now this doesn't necessarily fit on the actual model. This is just something we need to be aware of. Okay, so locus of control, what this means is an outcome that is controllable or uncontrollable, and this directly affects performance motivation. It is key we can say both of those things. Okay, so locus of control refers to the outcome being controllable or uncontrollable, and this is what directly affects performance motivation. For example, effort is controllable. It's internal, so it comes from within us, and it's unstable, it can change, i.e. we can change this. We can control our effort. This is the only thing on this model that we can control. That is important, and it plays an even bigger role later on. So controllable, e.g. effort, uncontrollable, e.g. luck. We cannot control our luck. It changes, but we don't change it, okay? It's completely external to us. Task difficulty is external to us. We cannot change our task difficulty. It's stable, it doesn't change. We can't control it, and we can't control our ability either. I mean, I want to be fast, but I'm not. I'm never going to be really, really quick. I can't control that. So, locus of control, the main thing we can control is our effort. All the others we cannot control. So, as I said at the very start, it's really important that we now give the correct attributions within sport as to reasons why we have failed or succeeded. Because ultimately, this is going to impact on our motivation, our confidence, our future expectations of success. If we give the correct attributions for succeeding, we are going to increase our motivation, increase our confidence, as well as future expectations of success. However, if we give the wrong attributions for success or failure, then this can really harm our motivation, our confidence, and our future expectations of success. So moving on to this next part, we need to be aware of this term, mastery orientation, and how it can be used to optimize sports performance. So first of all, what is mastery orientation? It is simply when a performer is motivated to be an expert, and it's linked to high achievers. Okay, these elite athletes could be classed as mastery oriented. So this is what we want our athletes as coaches to be. We want, as a coach, I want my athletes to be mastery oriented. Okay, I want them because this optimizes sports performance. This will make them more motivated. This is really positive for an athlete. So, if we haven't got someone who is mastery oriented, how are we going to change them to become mastery oriented? Or if they are mastery oriented, what are they doing? I.e., when they win, how do they attribute their success? What do they say is the reasons for them succeeding? So mastery-oriented performers suggest or attribute their successes to internal attributions. Okay, for example, internal and stable attributions such as their ability. We won because we were the better team. She won because she was the fastest in the race. She's the fastest person, therefore she won. That is her ability. It's internal, it is stable. We also use internal and unstable attributions. For example, our effort. We won because we tried harder. So, key information For mastery orientation to be successful or to become mastery oriented, we have to attribute our successes to internal and stable, e.g. our ability, and internal and unstable, our effort. Why? Why do we have to do this? Well, the reasons for this is because the performer has personal responsibility for the success. It comes from within them. It is their personal responsibility. This, therefore, increases confidence, increases motivation, as well as future expectations of success. That is why using attributions that are internal for success is so important. So, elite athletes, mastery-oriented athletes, people who are using mastery orientation to perform, they still lose. They do not win every single game. Okay, that's why we love sports so much. So when they do lose, how do they attribute their failure? What do they say are the reason behind them failing? Well, they use internal, unstable attributions. For example, effort. I lost because I need to try harder. I did not try hard enough. That is why I lost. So why is this so effective? Why is this so important that for mastery orientation, this is how you attribute your failure? It's because the performer has personal responsibility because it comes from within. They also have control for changing the effort. Okay, they absolutely have control over it because it's unstable, internal from within. It's unstable. It can change. Therefore, you say your effort is the reason you lost because it means that as a performer, you have personal responsibility and control for changing the effort. This maintains your future expectations of success and maintains motivation. It won't increase motivation because you ultimately lost. So losing, you're not going to go out even more motivated because you lost. Potentially you might do. However, for this scenario, we're just going to concentrate on the fact that if you say it's due to your effort is why you lost, it just maintains your motivation. It certainly doesn't decrease your motivation. So make sure you've got good notes on that. That's mastery orientation. You say what it is, how they attribute their successes, why it's effective, how they attribute failures, and why that is also effective. Next on the list, we need to be aware of learned helplessness and how that is a barrier to sports performance. How does this term, learned helplessness, kind of almost affect participation in sport or affect performance? So, first of all, what is it? It's simply the failure is considered inevitable. Someone who has learned helplessness believes that they're going to fail no matter what, and it really is linked to low achievers. So low achievers in sport have this learned helplessness. When we go through these examples, I'm sure you may be aware of someone who has this. So how does someone with learned helplessness, this kind of like consideration that failure is inevitable, how do they attribute their success to? So why, when they do win, because people with learned helplessness do win, what would they say are the reasons for them winning? Well, they would use external attributes such as external and unstable attributes, i.e. luck. We won because the ref made the wrong decision. We won because she slipped over when she was just about to cross the finishing line. Okay, so why is this not effective using external and unstable attributions? It's because you have no control over external attributions. It is not internal, so it doesn't give you personal responsibility, and therefore it does not increase motivation, confidence, and future expectations to success because you can't control it. Simply saying the ref made the wrong decision being the reason that you won the game, you have no control over that, therefore no responsibility over the victory, therefore it doesn't increase motivation or confidence or future expectations of success. So when someone with learned helplessness loses, how do they attribute their failure? How do they suggest, or what is the reason behind them failing? What people with learned helplessness use is internal and stable attributions, e.g. their ability. I am useless. Okay, this is not good. Suggesting that your failure is due to internal and stable attributions is really harmful actually, because ultimately you have no control over ability because it's internal and stable, it is permanent. Therefore, as soon as you say you lost because your ability is poor, it massively decreases motivation, confidence, and future expectations of success. That is why you get some people dropping out of sport, because they'll play sport, they'll continue to lose, and they'll just constantly suggest it's their ability of why they're losing. Therefore, that decreases their motivation, decreases their confidence, future expectations of success, and then they just stop playing. So it's really important that we're able to change an individual who has learned helplessness, then obviously you change it from using the strategies that were just shown on the previous slide with regards to mastery orientation, i.e. attributing success to internal factors and failure to internal unstable factors such as effort, because you can control it. You have personal responsibility over it. So that's learned helplessness. And the last thing I want to go through is this question here. So evaluate the effectiveness of the following attribution for failure. We lost because of the wind, snow, my players had a sore throat. So evaluate strengths and weaknesses. Effectiveness, is this strategy effective? If it's not a strategy, of the following attribution for failure. So this person has failed, and the reason they have failed, they are saying, is because of the wind, the snow, and the fact that the players had a sore throat. Okay, so first of all, if I get the kind of Viner's model of attribution up on the board for you, you can see this now. So you have to classify these attributions here. So first of all, they're external and unstable. Okay, so external unstable attributions, i.e. weather, wind and snow, and a bit of luck here. So my players had a sore throat. Now, the strengths for using this type of attribution for failure is because it takes away personal responsibility and it can change. So it's external, so it's not within the athlete. Therefore, coaches, for example, of sports teams can say, oh, the reason we lost was because the wind affected the flight of the ball constantly. The snow made my players really cold, and they had a sore throat as it was, so they were ill, they weren't up for it. So therefore, you take away the responsibility from the players straight away. And also, it can change. Next time we play them, we'll beat them because the weather and luck is completely unstable. This can maintain motivation, confidence, and future expectations of success because you're not harming the athletes, because you're literally saying to them, oh, it wasn't you. It was the fact that we had the wind, the snow, and you had a sore throat. However, the disadvantages or the weaknesses with using these attributions is, and it's ineffective because players have no control. So therefore, there's no personal responsibility for changing because they do not have control over the weather or the luck. Now, this is used quite often in sport, and attributing failure to external factors does help protect motivation, confidence, and future expectations. And this is known as self-serving bias. Basically, self-preservation. Oh no, it's not because of my ability I lost. I lost because I had a cold or I had a sore throat and it was really windy and snowy. That's why I lost. So that there is self-serving bias. Now, the problem with that is the fact that it's short-term solution. Okay, you can't keep using that as an excuse. Eventually, you're going to realise you're going to keep using that as an excuse, and then it's short-term because ultimately, if you keep losing, it's potentially not because of the wind, snow, or the fact that you had a sore throat. So that's a really difficult question on attributions, evaluating the effectiveness of the following attribution for failure. We have to be able to classify, first of all, the quotations to kind of what's being said into, well, where does it fit in Viner's attribution model? For example, external and stable. Then it's about the effectiveness. So we have to talk about the strengths of using external unstable for reasons for failure, and the weaknesses for using that for failure. So make sure you get really good Cornell notes on that, and I'll see you in lesson.